Welcome to Caffeinate and Advocate, the show where we sip coffee and talk all things mental health. I'm your host, Jess, today joined by the very first Caffeinate and Advocate guest, and actually the mastermind behind Caffeinate and Advocate, Jamie. Jamie, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good today.
That's awesome. Jamie is joining me to talk about my cats. Just kidding. One of the things that Jamie and I wanted to discuss is the idea of change. 2025 was a big year of change at Pierce Star, and we kind of want to continue that conversation. So getting right down into it. Jamie, change, good or bad?
I think change is good.
Change is bad. No, just kidding.
It can feel bad.
It can feel bad.
It can feel scary.
Okay.
It can feel heavy, but I think change ultimately is a good thing.
I agree, honestly. I've never been one that's afraid of change. Change can cause some nerves and there's always that what if, but I've always been one that's just kind of like, let's go with it. I'm a very go with the flow person. But I know a lot of people do struggle with change. Can you think of things that, anyone that you've supported or even your own experiences when change was almost detrimental to them, or it was really, really heavy, or was really, really hard?
You know, it's surprising because as much as I say that I like change and I think change is a good thing, I've experienced a lot of change in my life that has been a setback and has proven to me that, I needed to take different steps or different approaches, and it has been, that word, scary, but it's given me growth. So I think in my own experiences, I've had to face loss, and I've had to, come out with grief, and I've had to be in situations that had to take different roads that I had expected. Ultimately, all leading though to a positive impact or a positive outcome. And it might take some time. It might not be instantly, but eventually that change has developed into growth.
I like that you pointed that out, because honestly, as you were starting to talk about change, immediately I experienced a recent loss, and a devastating loss to my family. And as you're saying that, I'm like, man, I didn't even think about that as change. All the things that have changed because of that loss, or that are still changing because it's so, new. And so I think you never want anyone to think that those types of changes are meant to be, or that they are, I always hate when someone uses the thing you're not given more than you can handle, or, that there's always a purpose or a reason for all of it. But like you said, change can lead to growth. And even in the things like loss, personal loss, and loss can be death. Loss can be the loss of a job. It can be the loss of a different type of relationship, all these different things that change can help us grow, even in times where we didn't realize, we may not have realized we needed to grow.
And I think that too, that again, back to the statement of where people are everything happens for a reason or a purpose. Maybe not. It probably had nothing to do with the journey that you were on. You know what I mean? And maybe it really is just coming up with what does it look like now, and it tests your ability. And I think that if I hadn't experienced some of those things throughout the years that have guided me or directed me down pathways that I was not prepared for, I really wouldn't be where I am. I really wouldn't be where I am without all of that. And I'm not saying that change even has to be grief. And that's a huge thing too. You can sometimes make a decision to make a change. And you can make a positive decision and say, I don't want this anymore. I want to be doing this. It doesn't have to be grief and negativity. It can be purposeful, and it can be enlightening. It can be spiritual. It can be any kind of change that you positively want it to be as well. And it can be change of job, change of circumstance, things that you want to see happen.
I think there's a big difference between changes that you initiate and changes that are initiated for you. So do you have any examples or suggestions for someone who maybe has had a change given to them, or a change occurred because of someone else, but now they have to kind of go with it? So I think of in school, when I was in school and the teacher made a change, or at work, if your boss makes a change, that can be really, really difficult. So do you have any kind of guidance or suggestion?
I think one of the biggest things is being able to assess the situation. Is it positively impacting you? How do you feel in this? And coming to terms with where is the change going to impact you the most? And then coming up with a plan, what does it look like moving forward? What feels different? What can we do in order to maneuver through that change gracefully Sometimes it is finding support. Sometimes it's, being able to stand up and say, this is where I don't feel comfortable. Sometimes it is maybe deciding that you don't want to follow through with where you're at. No matter what, I think having that support system and stuff like that, planning it down, writing it down, and really just speaking to yourself through it. Because again, you're right. There's a lot of things that change in people's lives that they were not adequately prepared for. It's not something you can prepare for.
And there's some changes you can't stop. I can give the example, a change that I'm seeing happen in my life is my kids are turning into adults. And for so long, for 19 years, I've been a mom. And I just aged myself right there. I've been a mom for 19 years, and my kids are getting to ages where they don't need me. Luckily, hopefully they still like to have me around, but they don't need me. And my role is changing. And I have the ability to either dread that, and I can let it be all encompassing where every day, instead of enjoying watching who they're becoming, I could dread and be sad of who they were and what they used to be. So, I get to have that choice of how do you move forward? And honestly, they're supposed to age, they're supposed to gain independence. If I've done my job right, then they are going to fly the nest. And so that's my approach to it is I've always known my kids were going to grow up.
And I think moving back to the advice that somebody would give is you get a chance now to discover who you are. You get a chance to discover outside of motherhood.
And we all know I am super cool.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, you get to now move into this change knowing that it's occurring, and you get to make some decisions, and you get to say, maybe you want to try a new hobby, maybe you something you haven't been able to do because your kids are in sports, or things that you might be able to take on that just weren't the same. It's going to look different and feel different. The good thing is you see that change coming. So now you get to prepare for it.
And I can welcome them to come along if they want.
And that's a big thing too. And I think that, again, there's a big difference between change that we're not necessarily prepared for and change that we are prepared for. And I think that we give people an opportunity to make those decisions. And that's like you said at the beginning, we've had a lot of changes within the company, but I think a lot of times it is just giving people that foundation of here's the support and here's where you can go with it. There's opportunity. We don't have to see it as a negative all the time.
I like that you pointed out assessing, because so often as humans, we react with emotion and we react quickly with emotion.
Yes.
And so change can be scary. Change can be, like you said, heavy and everything. So just being able that when that change is presented to you, sit with it, assess it, look into all the options. What is the good that could come of this change? The period of change and transition could be difficult, but what's the outcome?
That's a big one. And we have plans and stuff within peer support, change action plans. Mm-hmm. Being able to bring those in, being able to say, what do I need from this right now? And you're right, let's not get reactive, let's get responsive. Let's get down to the core of
reactive,
where
responsive, not reactive.
Yes.
Right.
Where you have a chance, and this is the biggest thing of advice that I ever give people when we talk about change is you can either revolve and continue in the same habits and same structure and same things, or you can learn to evolve. And everything in life is evolving. So we can grow from just about anywhere. So
I love it. Do you have any changes that you're experiencing?
Tons. I think I'm moving into a very good foundation of change, I think. And I think that it's growing. And I'm excited to see where that goes.
Excited and scared?
Yes, absolutely.
Because change can be both, and that's okay.
Two things can exist at the same time.
They can.
And I like that.
Well, before we end for our time, we need to do a coffee can question.
I love these.
All right, let's see.
All right, I'm pulling from the bottom.
Pull from the bottom.
Okay, it says, what is one way you think we can support older adults struggling with mental health? I mean, here it is. I mean, again, we can even relate that back to change a little bit and just the changes that older adults face in their lives. Again, I don't mean to be negative, but it can be a lot of grief. It can be a lot of change. It can be a lot of loss of family or connections or, if you're talking about older adults that may be moving into nursing facilities and things like that, supporting them and understanding what they can do now and having coping skills for now, where the outlook is for them now versus continuing to like walk in the past. And I think that mental health can be a thing, but I also think that they need to know that there's support there. And I think that's the biggest thing, is letting older adults know that there is support.
It's interesting because it's almost that same concept that I was just saying about having my children grow, and I can either really enjoy this next stage, which is what I've chosen to do, and it's awesome, or I can just keep looking back at where they were and how I wish they still were. And I feel like the same happens for us as we age, that we can either just keep holding on to the things that are here or were here, instead of completely embracing what is realistic now. And I think not even just older adults, but ourselves as we age, understanding that can help us age in a more healthy manner. Like if I'm prepared for that, it'll make my aging experience better.
And I will say a lot of the peers that I've met that would be considered older adults, the biggest thing is just access, is them understanding that life doesn't have to stop just because you're a certain age. Like society paints that picture. We don't have to accept it, and it's okay to change and become someone completely different in every age of your life.
Exactly. Well, very cool. So that is all for today. Although we can talk about my cats.
We could talk about
and how they're going to help the world heal, one cat photo or video at a time. So Jamie, thank you as always for joining. Obligatory cheers. Until next time.